What's up guys, Miles here, 9to5Mac, and today we're going to be reviewing the long-awaited Apple AirTags. If you're an iOS user and have been looking for a device to help you keep track of items you carry regularly, this is by far the best solution. And if you're a fan of good ideas, consider subscribing to the channel for future content like this. The unboxing and setup experience for AirTags is really simple and straightforward. Inside the box, you've got your AirTag embedded in a folder giving you basic instructions on how to initiate the setup process. There's a bunch of documentation in the box, but nothing else outside of that in the AirTag itself. These are powered by replaceable CR2032 batteries, so there's no power cable or power adapter required. In order to begin the setup process, you firstly have to remove this plastic shielding on the AirTag as it's preventing the battery from giving power to the AirTag. So as soon as you do that, you'll hear a chime that should sound like this. And that should be followed up by a menu appearing on your iPhone or iPad. The menu will ask you to choose a name for your AirTags along with an emoji, and then you're done. After the setup process, everything related to your AirTag will be found within the Apple Find My app, and if you're having trouble getting your device to recognize the AirTag, just go into the settings and make sure that your device is on the latest software update. Whether you're on an iPhone, iPad, or Mac, you can view and edit your AirTags within the Items tab in the Find My app, which comes pre-installed on all Apple devices. The Find My app will show the general location of your AirTags, and this menu will also allow you to identify a pair of AirTags that you found so you can return it to the original owner. The first method of finding your AirTags if you've misplaced it is with the Play Sound feature, and I did a few tests to see how well this works. I placed my AirTag at the front of my apartment and then went to the opposite end, which is about a 90-foot distance, give or take a few feet. And at the very opposite end, when trying to play the Find My sound, it told me that the AirTag was unreachable. And then I walked about 12 feet towards the AirTag in the front, and that's when it started playing the chime. So just know that AirTags don't have infinite range, and this feature will only work so well in certain areas. As far as the volume for the chime itself goes, I think it's plenty sufficient for a decently quiet area. The chime is high-pitched, which obviously helps with being able to hear it, but it's not something you'll hear in every single environment. I placed my AirTags about 8 feet in front of my drum set and started playing at a pretty moderate volume just to see how badly it drowns out the AirTag, and it does drown out the AirTag quite well. I could just barely hear it, and that's with me trying to hear it. So if you're in a quiet house or just outside with no loud trains or sirens going on, you'll be able to hear the chime well enough to find it. But if you're at a loud party or a concert, it'll likely be a bit challenging, but that's where this next and arguably the coolest feature of AirTags comes into play. The Precision Find feature is exactly what anyone needs for finding their AirTags without any clue as to what direction or spot it's in, but just keep in mind that this feature is only compatible with the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro series and 12 and 12 Pro series of phones. So unfortunately, if your device is older than that, you won't be able to use this feature. But when you've lost your item, you just hit find and this UI will appear showing you approximately how many feet you are away from your AirTag. I tested this first inside my apartment, doing the same thing I did earlier, which is putting my AirTag on the opposite end of my apartment, and I had to be about 30 feet away from the AirTag before it started giving me a general direction to head in, but outside of that, it worked flawlessly inside. I tested the same feature outdoors and the results were pretty much the same. I had to be about 28 to 30 feet away from the AirTag before it started giving me a general direction to head in. And for whatever reason in my head, I was expecting to be able to get a direction to go in within like 50 feet as opposed to 30 feet, but we are talking about Bluetooth here, so like I said, the range is definitely not infinite and you can only track the direction within a certain distance. But I think for what it's worth, the feature in and of itself is really cool and really useful. But what happens if you still end up losing your AirTag? Well, AirTags have a feature called loss mode, and this essentially locks any pairing capabilities on the AirTag, meaning that nobody else that picks it up on the street is going to be able to connect to it and use it. Loss mode also lets you input a contact number and a message for anyone who finds it before you do. And whenever your AirTag is identified by someone else, you'll get a notification letting you know where it is. But keep in mind that you'll only get that notification if found if you're not in close proximity to your AirTag already. And by close, that basically means within 100 feet of you. AirTags are using CR2032 batteries like I mentioned earlier, and that simply means that you shouldn't have to worry about your AirTags battery going dead for at least a year. But the neat part, and something that I can really appreciate, is that even though the battery is not rechargeable, you can still view the battery status within the Find My app, which I think is a very nice touch. Even though you have a rough estimate of how long it'll last, you don't have to guess, and you'll know exactly when it's time to swap those batteries out. And if you're interested in learning how to swap out your battery on your AirTags, click the card in the top right corner, I think it'll be this way, to watch our quick and easy tutorial. Normally, accessories for a product like this would just get their own video, but since this is a product where you essentially have to buy an accessory for it, I figured it'd be worth mentioning. Apple sells a handful of case options for the AirTags currently, but what I have here are Apple's own AirTag accessories, and these obviously aren't meant to do much other than keep your AirTag secure in a somewhat stylish manner, and they do that perfectly. The AirTag is secured in the case with this button-down mechanism, which feels extremely secure, and quality-wise, I think it's absolutely fine for what you're paying. Overall, the AirTags do a great job of being reliable and easy to use. All of Apple's privacy features they've implemented into this product are very comforting, knowing that someone can't just stick an AirTag in my backpack and track me, no matter what operating system I use, and nobody will be able to take over and use your AirTags if I lose it. All of those things make this a no-brainer product to buy if you're within the Apple ecosystem and are looking for a product to keep track of your everyday items. And after getting this and testing this out, I think I'm gonna get one more for me and probably 4 more for the girlfriend, like right now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future content like this. We're probably gonna have a few more AirTags videos on the way. So thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.